I thank the Rav, the Morad Asra, for hosting us tonight. I think I'm going to cut straight to the chase. Allow me to share a story that happened a few years ago in yeshiva, and it's a story that might have changed my life and my perspective of things, and made an impact on me and a lot of people who heard the story. I was walking out of yeshiva. I was pretty much in a hurry. It was after first Seder. I was running to New York to see somebody, and a boy from the Mesivta came over to me and said, Rosh Yeshiva, can I have a few minutes with you? Could we go for a walk? We have a park across the street. Could we go for a walk in the park and maybe have a conversation? I said, sure, anytime. When we were walking, he asked me, can I ask you a very personal question? And I told him, you could always ask me a very personal question. I reserve the right not to answer it, but never be afraid to ask the question. And he proceeded, and he asked the question. And he asked as follows. Everybody has something that they dread doing. What is it in your life as a Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshiva? What is it that you dread doing so much that sometimes you'd be ready to quit your job, your position, or if you would have known about it before you opened the yeshiva in the community, you would have never opened the yeshiva in the community? What is it? And I must tell you, I was shocked, I was surprised, I was silenced. I never thought about it before. And he started, I would guess, leading the witness. And he asked me, could it be some of the boys in yeshiva? Maybe some of the difficult boys? And I told him, not at all. I never had remorse for any boy that I ever took into yeshiva. Not one. Is it maybe juggling, balancing the needs of the institution, the needs of the community, and the individuals? I said it can be very frustrating. As every Rav knows, it can be very frustrating, but it doesn't bring me down. It doesn't bother me. So he said, what is it? He started prodding. What could it be? It has to be something. And finally, I confessed. I said, there is one thing that sometimes creates a second thought in my life. He asked, what is that? I told him, fundraising. He said, why? Isn't it so interesting to go meet different personalities? And as the ambassador of the yeshiva, you could go out and represent the yeshiva. Why don't you like it? And I was silent. And then he looked at me in the eyes and says, could it be that you're afraid that your request won't be granted? Is it the fear that somebody's not going to respond to you? And the truth is, he hit the nail on the head. Of course, there's a certain fear when you go out there that you're going to be turned away. And then he started going on, how much are you, most of the times, are you turned down? I said, no. A lot of times, no. And when you turn down, is it by people who know you or potential or prospective donors? I said, it's hardly by the people I know me. It's usually by a potential person. Is it because they don't like you? I said, I don't believe so. Is it because they don't like the yeshiva? I said, I don't believe so. I think either it's usually financial considerations or because it's, personal preferences. It's not because I feel bad. And he was silent. And then I asked him the question, why are you so curious? Why are you so inquisitive about this? And he tilted his head down, and I could see the tears coming down his cheeks. I could still see it. And he whispered, and he said as follows. He said, you dread one aspect of your work. Why? Because of a fear of a possibility. Or he said, he used the word, maybe even insecurity of a possible rejection from people who you hardly know, and they're not rejecting you. I live with real rejection every second of my life from the very people who care about me. There was silence. We continued walking with a thick silence. What am I supposed to say? And as we continued walking, I thought about it, and I said as follows. I challenged him. I asked him as follows. When you play ball, and the center player wants to pass the ball, he must pass the ball. He can pass it to you, and you know if you take the shot, you'll hit it. On the other hand, he can pass it to the person on the other side. And for some reason, he passed it to your friend on the other side, on the left side. The person shot and missed. He didn't pass it to you. Do you feel rejected? Are you hurt? Are you angry? And I said, before you answer the question, please think about it. He thought about it, and he said, it depends. I said, what does it depend upon? It depends. I'll wait a second. He said, it depends. It depends if the center was a friend of mine or not a friend of mine. If he's my friend, so then obviously I view it as a bad judgment call. I'm angry, but I get over it. But if he wasn't a friend of mine, so I start to think that maybe he rejected me. And if he's somebody who I didn't like, I'm positive that it was a rejection. It all depends. It depends if we're friends. Depends on our relationship. It depends on if we have a rapport. So I looked him in the eye and I said, that's true about every aspect in life. In all areas of life, it's the same. When you have a solid relationship, when you have a healthy relationship, and it's stable, very rarely do you feel deep rejection. Your rejection, the rejection that you experience are in your actions, but never about yourself and never about your being. And you can handle it. But when you have instability in relationships, when not a real relationship, then everything that occurs to you that disagrees with you, you're going to view as a rejection. It's the relationships that describe the paradigms of our life. It defines the perception of the reality. And every person is in need, in a person, the sense of belonging. It's a fundamental need of every human being. If he doesn't have that sense of belonging, ultimately, he's going to feel rejected. And rejection, there's no greater pain than rejection. In fact, they did a study, and Tylenol, so that heals the feelings, the pain of rejection, which means it's a physical pain. And of course, somebody's going to lean towards substance abuse. Well, rejection will lead to rebellion. It preoccupies a person. He's lost. He's dysfunctional. And he always stays away from the things that he feels are going to reject him. So he becomes totally dysfunctional in life. And I told him, in reality, every one of us, adult, child, everybody is rejected. His thoughts and actions are rejected multiple times during the day. But we all view it, a healthy person views it as, I'm not rejected, so he disagreed with me. He's wrong. He's not rejecting our relationship. But if you don't have a relationship, so then rejection hits the core of a person. So I was talking to the boy, and you have to build that relationship with those who you love, with those who really care about you. Focus on relationship. Don't focus on anything else. And the truth is, there's a saying. The saying is, rules without relationship equals rebellion. Relationship together with rules equals respect. When you have rules without a relationship, so it's dictatorship. That's all it is. And of course, a person naturally is going to rebel against it. But when you have a relationship, and there's a natural relationship, there's always going to be reciprocation. In fact, one of the most natural relationships in the world are our parent-child relationship. And naturally, every parent, no matter who he is, loves his child. In fact, Ben Azai, there's a medrash that says, Ben Azai says, V'ahavtu re'acha kamocha is by everybody else. But a parent loves the child even more than the parent loves himself. And that's nature. And what a person has to do is develop that nature, buy into the nature, understand the nature. And when the parent expresses that love, not in words, just it's all about the facial features. That's what it is. It's about our reactions, about our attitude. And children read attitude, especially teenagers, much deeper than they read the words, than they hear the words. It's all about the attitude. And when they see it, and when we trust our children, they will trust us. When we have confidence in our teenagers, they will have confidence in us. And when we respect our teenagers, they will respect us. It's so simple. And it starts from us. We're the producer, we're the provider, we're the parent, we're the mechanech. It has to start from us. And they reciprocate. They will reciprocate every relationship. And in every way, you'll have the greatest child in the world. But it has to be a relationship. Relationship with rules. Rules without relationship is rebellion. Of course, it's not just about relationship. Don't misunderstand me. Relationship without rules is chaos. It needs rules. It needs demands. There has to be demands and rules in a family. And yes, our children have to conform to society, to the frum society, in a frum world. But the basis for that, and the only way they will conform, and the only way they will abide, if there's a relationship. So relationship and rules creates a tremendous success in a person's life. And that's what I talk about many times, relationship-based chinuch. When there's a relationship-based chinuch, then you can have every rule and every regulation and every demand in the world. What I just related is Rabbi Akiva Eiger. Rabbi Akiva Eiger on Chumash says as follows. There are two parshas in Kriya Shema, and we'll conclude with this. There are two parshas in Kriya Shema. The second parsha of Kriya Shema is the parsha of Kabbalas Ol Mitzvahs. Schar v'oinish, reward and punishment. Threats. The first parsha of Kriya Shema is Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shamayim. We accept the yoke of the sovereignty of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. B'chol levavcha, with all our passions, even our Yetzer Hara. B'chol nafshecha, even if we have to give up our lives. B'chol modecha, with all our resources. Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shamayim. But the first parsha has to precede the second parsha. It's first Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shamayim, then Kabbalas Ol Mitzvahs. In the Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shamayim, b'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha, b'chol modecha, it's not just a mandate to do. It's V'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha. It's through the expression and the motion of love. With a nation that accepts the sovereignty, the yoke, the burden, all the responsibilities through love. Akiva says, how could that be? Love is an emotion. We could abide by rules and regulations, but love is an emotion. Rabbi Akiva Eiger says that the love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the most natural love in the world. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu has an infinite love to us. And when there's an infinite love to the people, the nature is to reciprocate. And we have a natural love to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And because His love is infinite, we reciprocate with an infinite love with all our passions. I'll give up my Yetzer Hara for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'll give up my life for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There are no bounds and no limitations. I'll give up all my resources. But that's only if I recognize and understand and I feel HaKadosh Baruch Hu's love. And then I'll do it. How do you do that? Rabbi Akiva Eiger says that's why in the davening, Kriya Shema is preceded by Ava Rabbah or Avas Olam, where it said that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has such an abundant love for us. Ava Rabbah Avtanu. And even after sitting, even after Chet HaEgel, Chemla Gedayla V'Yiseira Chamalta Aleinu, that even after the Chet HaEgel, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has infinite compassion to us. And there's still a relationship, the Kerav Tanu. And then it finishes off, Habaycher ba'amo Yisrael bi'ava. Doesn't say Shabacha that He chose us. He's choosing every Yid right now with love. If He could have it any other way, He would have had it only this way, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when we understand, Rabbi Akiva Eiger says, this love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for us, and it's repeated every day, twice daily. In fact, at the time of the Chassam Sofer, some of the philosophers wanted to make a claim that if you daven so many times, and you say Ava Rabbah so many times, and Kriya Shema so many times, we're going to lose the passion with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Maybe it's best to daven once a year. And, of course, the Chassam Sofer says it's the opposite way. Obviously, because the more we renew the passion, the more we feel it, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's love, the more natural our love will be for Him. And that's the first parsha of Kriya Shema. And after the first parsha of Kriya Shema, then can go the rules and regulations of the second parsha. The first parsha is the relationship. And the second parsha is the mitzvahs, the aveiros, the schar v'oinish. And the same thing is true by parents and mechanchim. When our children, our talmidim, recognize that in the footsteps of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Ava Rabbah Avtanu Hashem Elokeinu, and there's a Chemla Gedayla V'Yiseira Chamalta Aleinu, even after they sin, even after they do wrong, even maybe after they rebel, but there's a Chemla Gedayla V'Yiseira by us. And it's Habaycher ba'amo Yisrael. We choose our children. If I had to have it any other way, if I was given a choice about the children I have, my biological children, and now I'd given a choice, this child or any other child, I'll pick my children. And the same thing with Talmidim. From all the Talmidim, not one Talmud would I give up for another Talmud, for somebody else. It's Habaycher ba'amo Yisrael bi'ava. So they understand the love. I never have to say a word. At that point, they'll do anything for us. It's reciprocation. And at that point, we can make every demand possible. We can even punish in the proper way. We can do everything because the relationships is not threatened. There won't be a rebellion in such a case. And there's no concept then of rejection. If we could do this, and then Yirtzeh Hashem will have the Haftacha at the end of the Kriya Shema, of L'mayin Yirbu Yimeicha V'yimei V'neichem. At that point, there'll be longevity for our children, ourselves, and our children. We're in Eretz Yisrael, and it says L'osets Lahem, both in Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba.